Hello, this is Writing Tips, and I'm your host, Sherry. This is the fourth video of the Story Developer series. In today's video, we'll try to uncover what we actually mean when we say story. We'll talk about what readers are looking for when they read a story, and finally, we'll rough in the main stages or acts of your story. So let's get busy. In critique, we often hear, "That story just doesn't work for me." That's a terrible critique, by the way. I'm on a mission to get you to stop saying that and know why something doesn't work for you. But here's the thing, a group of readers may not know why a story feels wrong, but they will often agree when a story is somehow wrong. Experiments have shown that even small children just establishing their verbal skills have a sense of when a story is incomplete or wrong. Telling a writer how to fix what is wrong is an entirely different matter and may require a professional. But even novice readers will usually agree whether a story hits the mark or not. That's why beta readers are so crucial. Having the concept of story so deeply ingrained indicates the rudiments of story have been with us a long time, probably as long as language has been with us. Story is written deep in our genetic code and lives in our collective subconscious. That's why it touches us so deeply and can alter our worldview and our behavior. In fact, it is one of the few things that can change our point of view. In Techniques of a Selling Writer, Dwight Swain crawls deep into the human psyche to unveil why readers need to read and why some books succeed while others fail. If you were a caveman and your buddy Garth was just eaten by, I don't know, a saber-toothed tiger, you probably realize that does not bode well for your survival either. Garth's tight-knit group probably suffered many demoralizing losses. Anyone who knows group dynamics knows demoralized groups function poorly. So, as Garth's spot around the fire remains empty, what can a storyteller do to change the group dynamic? The storyteller can make Garth's death seem less random and your existence seem more purposeful. Is the universe random? Who can say? But even today, the world appears to be a dangerous and random place. This causes humans a great deal of psychological distress. It doesn't seem fair that you can do everything right in your life and then die some awful death anyway. Though we like to think of ourselves as all important, we are small, insignificant creatures in the grand scheme of the universe. This conflict causes us tension. We are the center of our own little world. But every day we question our own self-worth. Is the world really any different because I'm in it? We yearn to be told that continuing the fight is worth it, that we are worthy. We crave the power to control our destiny and not just be the victims of a hostile, random universe. We want security, the security of knowing our behavior has some meaning. We crave a universe that demonstrates justice. So readers turn to stories to make the world appear as though it has order, some reason and logic behind the good and the bad. A strong plot gives the illusion that the world operates with some sort of ironic justice, and in the end, that is a great purpose because it keeps human society together and functional. To accomplish this monumental societal purpose, a story can't just be an organized list of events. There's more to it than that. My favorite definition of story came from James Scott Bell. Just kidding. Robert McGee, who wrote the book Story, defines it this way. Story structure is a selection of events from the character's life that is composed into a strategic sequence of events to arouse specific emotions and to express a specific view of life. Going even further, Philip Gerard of Writing a Book That Makes a Difference gives this definition of story. The arc of movement through time and space that translate the actions of the character into meaning. He goes on to give story 3 qualifications. A character whom we care about, who acts to gain what he or she desires. Number 2, other characters and forces oppose the fulfillment of that desire. And number 3, the outcome produces important consequences. Something is changed irrevocably. So what we have from these 2 definitions are selected events from McKee. In other words, the scenes you write have to have a reason for being there. Arousal of specific emotions that express a specific point of view. The reason you choose specific events in the character's life to dramatize is because you want the reader to have an emotional experience around a specific issue. That emotional experience is sometimes called catharsis. Gerard echoes what McKee says with translate the actions of characters into meaning. In other words, show moments in the character's life that have some meaning around an issue, a theme. Gerard also stresses that for the reader to be able to take an emotional journey to catharsis, readers need to care about the character. The character has to want to gain what he or she desires. They need to have a goal. He also points out that there has to be opposition to the fulfillment of the desire, or antagonism and conflict. And according to Gerard, the story is about something that is changed irrevocably. You have to have a one-way door in your story. Now, let's move on to creating that satisfying, cathartic feeling for your reader. Part of making a story work for readers is presenting all the things we just discussed in a framework they've seen before that's easy for them to digest and complementary to your story contents. Because the reader is seeking comfort to balm the tensions he or she feels due to the dangers in their very real life, your character must also face and overcome some danger. She must prove that she deserves to win against her challenges before you can give her a just reward. That gives the illusion to the reader that all is really right with the world, and if they are good people, in the long run, they will be rewarded too. The first quarter of your story is the setup. The setup introduces some danger. By the end of the setup, the main character's life has been disrupted, causing her to seek a new goal. The goal must have some moral weight. The main character's principles and or her convictions need to be challenged by this goal. The stakes of failing to achieve her goal must be made clear, and the reader must sympathize with this character to create emotional tension in the reader. That tension is caused by arousing the reader's curiosity with some nagging question that can only be answered by reading further. Another name for this question is the hook. Part of reader tension or worry is conflict. Who or what opposes or antagonizes your main character? You don't actually need to show the main antagonist in this first quarter of the book, but you must at least imply their existence and set up how and why they will interfere with the protagonist's pursuit of their goal. Readers want to know in advance what kind of book they're getting themselves into. So, along the way, this first quarter or act also has to establish the setting, the genre, and the tone of your novel. In the second quarter or response phase, the main character explores her options to obtain her goal. She may even attempt to solve the problem, but her own character flaws keep her from success. This builds the tension for the reader. The original goal may or may not be achieved, only to find a bigger goal must now be obtained. For example, a mother finds drugs in her daughter's backpack. She goes to the child's room to discuss what she has found. The initial goal is to have a discussion with the daughter about drugs. When the mother opens the door to the teen's room, the girl is gone and the window is open. Now the mother has a new, much bigger goal. See how that works? The third act is the attack phase. It begins when the main character realizes she will have to change in order to achieve her goal. The true depth and consequences of failure are also revealed to the main character, so she cannot give up and walk away, though she would really like to do just that. Others in the story may come to the main character's aid, but it is the main character that has to achieve the goal. The tension is built and focused to a sharp peak called the climax. That usually involves a final confrontation with the antagonist. The final act, the resolution, releases the tension and gives the reader the reward they have been seeking for enduring all the tension in your novel. An evolved main character acts heroically to solve her problem, proving her worth. Note that the main character has to prove she's evolved with some action, not just think or talk about change. Remember, the reader's looking for reassurance that the world, despite all appearances, is just. The main character, therefore, must do the work, solve her problem, and become master over her fate. Nothing can come to the main character's aid at the last second. It has to be something the main character has done that rescues the day. That's the reward or reassurance the reader is seeking when they started reading your book. If something rescues your main character, the reader will feel cheated. If the main character has acted in accord with her convictions, then she is given a reward. It is not necessarily the material goal the character was seeking, but ultimately a symbolic reward for the moral dilemma the character has conquered. If the character fails in her convictions, then the novel may be noir, and the character should be symbolically punished. It is the universe doling out karmic justice that gives readers the release of tension they seek. You may have noticed that many of the words we use to describe story are similar to the labels used by Masters and Johnson to describe the human sexual response. The response of a reader to a satisfying story is in some ways similar to sex. A novel that is right for the reader leaves him relaxed and satisfied. A novel that ends wrong leaves him tense and disappointed, not unlike being teased by a lover when there is no reward in sight. The moral of the story? Don't be a story tease. What? Homework? Nobody mentioned there would be homework for this course. Okay, there will be a little homework from time to time, but it will mostly be to get you to make progress in writing your novel. Below this video, in the show notes, you'll find a link to a handout that will help you create a basic structure for your novel. This is not a detailed novel structure or beat sheet. You won't need to spend hours or days on it. In fact, an hour is probably sufficient. That way, if you decide that you want to change how your novel is going to end or change the middle, it's not a huge commitment to do so. Do this exercise, and you should have a clear roadmap of the entire novel when you finish. If you feel like it, put your basic structure in the comments for the show, and I'll look it over for any plot holes or things you'll need to consider. Next time, we'll talk about what kind of writer you are: a plotter, a pantser, or somewhere in between. Then we'll look at the different types of stories for different types of readers: plot driven, character driven, or theme driven. See you soon.